you can't compete with that to get enough impressions to make a big difference. Now, that doesn't mean you can't learn to advertise through books and courses and talking to people and do small budget campaigns where you're basically trying to snipe low bids, find keywords that are unique before somebody else gets them, because those don't last very long. And you can get some traction and you can get some readers, but you can't scale that. It's just impossible because Amazon won't allow it to happen, because Amazon's looking at a lot of things, including overall revenue, how much money you're spending in total, how much money are you bringing to Amazon, in other words, from book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, etc.
Is there a trick to coming up with that middle ground that I think you just alluded to, something that might help you build readers while you're writing your series, but not ridiculously expensive? Like, for instance, as our listeners know, I write legal thrillers, but if I put John Grisham's name into an ad, it would become so preposterously expensive, I would be losing money on each click instead of making it. But if I found some more, still relevant but obscure keyword or phrase.
Right. And well, here's the catch-22 in that. When you find those obscure but relevant words, they don't get enough eyeballs to make a huge difference. Now,
if it's too obscure,
they can't be good keywords for you. If you can get the CPC, the cost per click, low enough, then it makes sense to try. So when you're in that position, one of the things that you can do is build in the beginning a whole massive list of keywords. And I'm talking like thousands of keywords, and you just try to test. And what can happen is you can hit on, say, another indie that's kind of hit it big and hits the top of the top 100 list of that genre. Like, so the books near the very top get a lot of eyeballs. So if you get those early, you can sometimes, Amazon will have space to sell you, and you can sometimes get reasonably cost clicks. That does take a lot of maintenance in keeping an eye on it, but you can find some traction that way. And of course, it depends on how much competition it is and how hot that genre is at any given time. But like you said, if you try to bid for Stephen King and John Grisham and Nora Roberts and the books that are on the top 100 of all of Amazon, those keywords will be prohibitively expensive unless you can follow up with a deep series, because you need that read through to pay for what you're paying. Even if you have a really high conversion rate, if you're paying $1 a click, you're spending a lot of money. You're basically buying the readers in the beginning, which is fine if your funnel leads into something that's generating a lot of revenue down the road. But it's a very poor business decision if it's not.
Right. You might justify paying a little bit more for the first book in the series on the theory that it could lead readers to the entire series. Is that what you mean?
Yes, correct. In fact, that's the way the Amazon environment works. So all of the really big advertisers that are spending 5 figures a month on advertising, for the most part, they're not expecting money on book 1. Like they're selling, they're bidding enough for clicks that, and most of them are in KU. So that's something we also need to mention here. The majority of those big advertisers are in Kindle Unlimited, and somewhere between usually 55 to 60% at the low end to maybe 65, 70% of their revenue is coming from KU. So they're bidding based on the fact that let's say their conversion is really amazing and they're getting one download or buy in 8 to 10 clicks. Well, those 8 to 10 clicks are still costing between $4 to $10. So imagine if you went out on the street and you said, "Hey, I'll pay you to read my book as long as you love the legal thrillers. I'll pay you to read my book." Well, what would you pay for that guy to read your book? Well, you'd have to make a calculation. How many of these people are going to read book 2, and how many are going to read book 3? What is that reader worth? Now, if you're Bella Forrest with a 60-book deep teen romance series, a new reader, somebody that likes that genre, is worth X dollars to you. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's $100. Maybe it's $200. Whatever that number is, you can afford to pay for that first reader a considerable chunk of money. So you just figure out, okay, how many clicks does it take me to get this? What am I paying per click? What does it cost? And now, am I willing to invest? Well, am I willing to invest $1 to get back $2? Well, yes, most people are. But what it comes down to when you're getting competitive is, am I willing to pay $1 and I'm only going to get back 50 cents right away, but I know I'm going to make 50 cents plus, next month or as people read through my series. And you get in trouble if you're not realistic about those numbers and if you're not careful of the spend.
Right. Are there any tools out there you would recommend that are useful for trying to come up with good keywords or key phrases?
Yeah, okay. I don't really want to publicly endorse anything, but there's some commercial products that are good, that are inexpensive, and they're worth it. Organically, what you can do is go to the top 100 list constantly. Go to the top 100 list and see what's new. Now, a lot of the writers will be the same one, so you don't need the same writer in your keyword list 50 times just because they have a bunch of books. One time's enough. But sometimes it helps to put the title of their latest book. Like sometimes it'll be a unique enough search term that Amazon will serve that more. Another way is to go to Goodreads and look at the top list. I use Google to actually do the search. It takes me to Goodreads. I'll put like Goodread top thrillers of all time, or top mysteries or top cozies. Goodreads. I put that into Google and it'll pop up a page in Goodreads which is reader generated. And now a lot of those will be classics and they don't get a massive amount of impressions, but they're certainly worth mining and putting into your keyword list. The other thing is to pay attention to the also bot. So if let's say your target is John Grisham, you go to his last book and you look at the also bots. Like, what are people buying when they get to the last John Grisham book that came out, or the last like if you go to Michael Conley's Bosch series, like what was the last Bosch book came out? I don't know. He's in like the mid-20s, I think. So you go to that and say, okay, here's a guy that's a Michael Conley fan and they've just read his latest book. What are they reading next? So the also bots will tell you that. So those would be good targets. Then you need to go to the authors that are in those also bots and see what their also bots are and see who's like. Also, if you go to the Author Central, there'll be like a list of authors that are, like people that read this. And after a while, especially if you're working in one genre, you'll start to know all the players. You'll know all the big advertisers in that genre. And, and if you're trying to work on a budget, you kind of have to go one off. Like you want to know the also bots of the also bots of the also bots. And then you can sometimes get some cheaper clicks in that. But everybody has to realize that there's not like any big secrets out there anymore. Like we all kind of know, like once you're working on it, you see the same names, who's in the top 100 lists, who's advertising strongly. And then it's just a matter of finding where you can exploit the click price to still profit. And that's more of a mathematical question than anything.
Mm-hmm. That's really insightful, Michael. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you, Michael, for that terrific interview. And let me just remind you one more time, if you're interested in the WriterCon cruise, February 2nd to 9th next year, please visit my website, williambernhardt.com, and read more about it. If you have questions about that or anything else, just email me, wb@williambernhardt.com. And if you're looking for mentors, somebody to mentor and help, answer questions, read work, whatever you need, please think about visiting patreon.com, patreon.com, and go to my page and see if I might be able to help you with what you're doing. All right? Until next time, keep writing. And remember, you cannot fail if you refuse to quit.